Let's begin with the elephant in the room when it comes to cybersecurity. National Security Agency, mass surveillance. All of the press out there, all of the outrage. James, do you think that any of it is going to have an impact? Do you think anything's going to change?
It's hard to say. Hardly anything ever makes NSA change involuntarily. What really needs to happen, I think, is that there has to be a really serious committee that looks into this, and I don't mean part of the Congress. Something that is like the church committee back in the mid-'70s.
Some businesses are making a lot of money off of this NSA scandal. Silent Circle, which sells encrypted phone communications, has seen, at least they tell me, they see a big surge in profit. Are you noticing a shift in the industry? Is there something that business people, startup folks should be aware of because of this NSA stuff?
Security's been a great investing area for decades, honestly. And some big companies have been built in the cybersecurity world for many decades. And I think it's going to continue, and I think the awareness by the customer, i.e. the Global 2000 corporation, of how vulnerable they are and what's at stake is higher than ever. As a result, that will lead to more cybersecurity technology buying.
Probably more consumer-facing cybersecurity.
I think both. I think you're going to see at the corporate level as well as the consumer level.
What I actually want to see in the startup space is a lot more work around authentication. Passwords are dead. If you have a startup and your users are logging in with passwords, the game is pretty much over for you. We need better authentication technologies using biometrics and sort of other innovative ideas.
So then are you gung-ho about the new, I guess now we can say it, the Apple iPhone is using biometric technology. Do you think that's the future?
I think it's the way forward, absolutely. Passwords are dead. Our relationship with passwords is done, I think.
I didn't know about this. I mean, this is fascinating. So, I mean, in the near future, should we expect new security procedures from Google, not related to passwords?
So we're always pushing this forward. There's actually a Wired article based off some research that we did that we actually think hardware-based tokens that sort of you interact with are kind of interesting. There's also Motorola, in the Motorola X product, came out with a skip device that you actually attach to your clothing, and the way you authenticate to it is actually by touching your phone to your clothing. And this is so if an attacker can't steal that from you, so to speak, they can't ask you for it over an email, for example, and so it's much more difficult to steal. And we're kind of looking at ways that this might change a little bit.
I think you're going to end up having a choice of factors, and you're going to give end users the ability to how many factor authentication you want. Is it going to be everything from an iris scan to a fingerprint to a device ID to maybe a password, and you'll be able to pick and choose which of those you want depending upon the service that you're using.
Let's get on to one of the spicier aspects of cybersecurity, which is cyber offense. Now, we know that Kleiner Perkins is supposedly an investor in a company called Endgame. Now, Endgame is a company that supposedly goes directly after hackers. It's not just defense. They find exploits in Russian and other systems and goes directly after them as a precautionary measure. Even if you can't talk specifics, tell me about the business of cyber offense.
I think that in the future, some aspect of it'll be either law enforcement or possibly how wars are fought will be done online. They'll be through cyber means. I think we've seen evidence of that in the past. And as a result, technologies will be developed to enable the appropriate authorities inside the government to enable those wars to take place. And what do I mean by that? I mean,
these are private companies going after our adversaries abroad.
No, they're not allowed to. These are technology companies that sell technologies to the appropriate agencies, who then can use them for whatever purposes they're legally.
Okay, so there's like a Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, they're developing.
Right. Raytheon develops the Tomahawk and the Patriot, but they don't launch Tomahawk and Patriots. They have to sell it to the DoD, who presumably has the right to launch them if need be.
And so that's what Kleiner is looking at. You're like a 21st century Raytheon. That's what you're looking to find.
I think there's an opportunity for a next generation cyber weapons company to evolve. I think it's probably inevitable.
There are actually some companies based out of Europe that are doing a similar kind of thing. One is called Gamma, and there's an exploit development shop called Vupen. And these are actually have been found either being sold or proliferated to the Middle East in order to spy on the free speech advocacy going on there, and presents a particular problem, and I think a particular ethical problem for companies like Endgame, who have to worry about where do their weapons go, because it's more difficult to track bits than it is to track tanks, for example. Because what we don't want to see are these kinds of technologies being used to suppress legitimate rights in democracy. And that's a particular problem. There's some great studies out of the University of Toronto on that front if you're interested.
One piece of advice for startup folks, either to know about the industry or to keep users safe. Go with Ted first.
Something I learned from Mandiant is there's only two kinds of companies in the world. Those that have been breached and know it, and those that have been breached that don't know it.
The moment you start your company, whether you're still in your dorm room or you have a real sort of a VC-backed company, you should designate one person who cares the most about security and privacy and who maintains the list of things you guys don't know. And then one of your first 25 to 50 people should be a full-time security privacy person.
All right, well, thank you all for joining us. It was a fun talk. Thank you.